Hello everyone, Mekkah here, and I am pleased to announce that I am going to hold another Fire Emblem Draft Race. It's going to be live streamed on my channel this Saturday, July the 25th at 2 PM Eastern or 8 PM Central European Time. In case you don't know, that is 1 hour before I usually stream on Saturdays. We're starting a bit earlier because these usually go on for a while and I don't want to have to go late. I want to sleep that night. So the game we're going to be running this time is Fire Emblem 7, the Blazing Blade. We've done it before and it was a blast, and the reason we're not doing a different game is because there's not a lot of other FE games that tend to lend themselves well to a race. Since we've done FE7 and FE8, it would seem like the most logical game to race next is FE6, but that game is very long, even if you skip all the Gaiden Chapters, mostly due to the larger maps and tougher enemies, even on lower difficulties. And you know what, the last time we did FE7 is a long time ago anyway, so it's gonna be fun, So I'm gonna be racing against the same 3 people as the last draft race. My first opponent is going to be Kirby Master, one of the most well-known Fire Emblem speedrunners. He's run just about every single Fire Emblem game. He's done runs on AGDQ a lot of the times, he's done every single route on 3 houses, and he's even done 3 houses runs where he plays every single route in one run. He is insanely good. But somehow he hasn't won yet, because our next opponent keeps taking all the wins, with ease. Gwimpage is not someone who's especially well known in the Fire Emblem community, but he has defeated all of us in both of the races that we've done so far, despite or perhaps because of the fact that he takes his time to train his units. And other than his speedrunning prowess, he's perhaps best known for having the Gwiggles, the most infectious form of laughter known to man.
Chapter 9 for it. Redo everything till then.
And he's just a super chill guy in general. Last but not least is the underdog, Cyan Yo. Cyan is the least experienced of us at speedrunning or racing. He's only participated in one race before, and that was the FE8 one. But FE7 is his favorite game, and he knows it like the back of his hand. And I think despite the lack of a speedrunning career, there wasn't too much of a difference between him and Kirby Master last time, so he might just surprise you. Now, all these players have their own Twitch channels that they'll be streaming their race from, and if you're interested in hearing their perspective or you just want to support them, I will leave their links in the description, and you should support them because they're all super nice and chill people. I'm going to be streaming all 4 races at once on this channel, so if you want to watch everyone at once and keep track of who's winning, then all you have to do is make sure to tune in at the aforementioned times. Now, the rest of this video is going to be dedicated to explaining the drafting process and the rule set. I'm going to leave those in the stream description as well if you prefer reading. I'm also going to put them down below in this video's description. So, as I said before, this is going to be a race. The first one to finish the game wins. That means we're playing on real time, not on turns. But it's not just a normal race, it's a draft race, so we're going to be drafting units. What that means is that we take turns picking units, and once one person has picked a unit, no one else can pick them. So, for example, if I go first and I pick Lowen, the other people, they cannot pick or use Lowen. And this drafting process will be live streamed as well, and it's one of the most fun parts of the race. Now, you might be worried that the person picking first has a huge advantage, and that's why we're using snake draft order. What that means is that we go back and forth in the order. So, in this example, the order is Mekkah, Kirby Master, Gwimpage, and then Cyan, and then we each pick one character. But then for next round of picks, the order is reversed, so Cyan gets to pick another character, and then it goes back up through Gwimpage, and then Kirby, and then Mekkah again. Then I get to go first again in round 3, so it'll be Mekkah, Kirby, Gwimpage, and then Cyan again. So, and it just keeps going back and forth like a snake. Having 2 picks in a row is really nice for being able to pick characters that complement each other. I believe Gwimp had 4th pick in both drafts we did, and it really ended up working out for him. So, this should be the most fair order that we can do. Now, I've talked about the basic logistics, so let me just go over the rules next. They are roughly the same as last time we drafted FE7, so if you were there for the last one, which again was a lot of fun, you can probably skip this part, but for completion's sake, I'll cover it here, since I'm going to link this video as a complete FAQ. So, here's the rules that we agreed on. First, we have some rules for the drafting itself. The draft is for 4 players, with the goal being to finish the game the fastest. Self-explanatory. Hector, Marcus, Merlinus, Ninian, and Nils, and Athos are all free to use for everyone. Bartre and Karla are drafted as a pair, and Marcus is banned starting chapter 17. These rules are mostly in place to make sure that everyone gets an equal amount of units to work with, and to make sure that everyone has some nice units to use in the early game, since you're allowed to use units, but only those that you have drafted, so you can't use people that you haven't drafted. So in chapter 12, for example, everyone is allowed to use Hector and Marcus at least, which is enough to get by even if you haven't picked any other early game units like Oswin and Eliwood and Bartre. But we banned Marcus later on, just because otherwise people will just rely on Marcus all the way through, and that would be kind of boring. You want to see some variety. Now the game, will be played on Hector Normal Mode. We'll skip Lyn Mode. We're not playing Hector Hard Mode because even though that will be more challenging to beat, Hector Normal is less punishing and the focus will be more on the racing aspect rather than the slow strategizing that you're usually used to from Let's Plays and stuff. We might do Hector Hard Mode in the future if we think it's fun, but for now it's going to be Hector Normal Mode. Now, here's some rules for the gameplay itself, so when we're actually racing. Undrafted units, so people that you haven't picked in a draft, they may recruit characters, rescue undrafted units, they can rescue NPCs, they can trade, visit shops, armories, villages, and they can dig up items in the desert. But they may not enter combat, use staves, build supports, lol, rescue drafted units, open doors and chests. They can't talk to Fargus to end Chapter 17X, and they can't seize castles in Chapter 25. Generally, the idea is they can do stuff to get out of the way and do like side quests and stuff where you don't want them to help out with achieving the main goals of the chapter. Third rule, Gaiden Chapters may be visited at the player's discretion and are not required to be visited. I think we almost always end up skipping every Gaiden chapter. I think I've done 17X on a race once and that's about it. NPC units may do as they please without penalty. Matthew may be deployed and freely open locks, but thieves may not steal unless they've been drafted. There's some exceptions to this, but we'll get to that later. You're allowed to use the enemy control glitch. This is a big one. This one might shock you, but again, it makes the game faster, and sometimes it's more interesting to watch. It provides an extra incentive to recruit Sarah and Priscilla, since it lets you use the Torch Staff in early Fog of War maps like the Dread Isle. But every player also has access to mines to basically nuke an entire chapter. If you don't know what I'm talking about with this one, by the way, the mine glitch or the torch glitch or the enemy control glitch, look it up. It's really fun, but I don't want to explain it all the way through here. It's a fun glitch. And then last rule, obviously, save states are entirely banned. Penalties. These penalties are here to make sure that everyone sticks to their draft team. Usually there's like one occasion of a penalty per racer per race, and this can be nice to take a quick break. So the penalties, they work like follows. Disallowed use of the undrafted units result in a 5-minute penalty per unit and per chapter. So if I haven't picked Lowen and I use him anyway in the chapter, I have him fight something, even if I'm meat shielding, I have to take a 5-minute penalty, or I have to reset the chapter, like it says in Rule 3. You're allowed to reset the chapter instead of taking the penalty after the use of an undrafted unit. Marcus has a special 8-minute penalty for every chapter he's used in, starting with chapter 17. Because, Marcus is a little bit better than most units, so you don't want people to make use of undrafted units at all. And Marcus might save you more than 5 minutes, so that's why there's a special rule for Marcus. Generally, people like having one break somewhere in the races. Sometimes people will just take their 5-minute break somewhere. Generally what just happens is they just pause their game and they take a nice bathroom break for 5 minutes. If that happens, but usually you will reset to undo a penalty. Depends on how far you are into the chapter. Some exceptions to penalties. Matthew is free for chapter 11 because that one only has Matthew and Hector, so you can just use anyone in that chapter. Meat shielding is allowed for 13x. I don't think I've ever seen someone go there, but apparently this rule exists. Sure. Lyn, Kent, Sane, and Will are free for chapter 16 because they start in the corner. They can't really go anywhere. They can't escape enemy combat, so it's kind of unfair if you have to force everyone to take a break if they haven't used, if they haven't picked these units. Lyn is not free in general. Like lords aren't free, so it's pretty hard to keep them out of combat entirely. And last but not least, thieves may steal necessary promotion items if the player requires one. So for example, if I have Oswin or Lowen on my team, they would need a Night Crest. Matthew is allowed to be deployed to steal like a Night Crest from someone if that's required. I don't remember off the top of my head if there's too many occasions of this in FE7, but we have the rule just in case it is there. So those are the rules. You can use the comment section to ask questions if something is unclear. If it's still unclear after a while, just watch the race and it will solve itself basically. I hope to see you guys there again, 2 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. European time. We're going to have a lot of fun. Please tune in and I will see you there. Peace and goodbye.